music, you know it's time for another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. How is everybody doing? I'm excited to be here on this Monday night. We have got a special show because I have a guest making his first appearance on the Sports Beat. I've been wanting to talk to this guy for a while. He has been just a veteran in broadcasting. Please welcome to the Sports Beat, Jonthan Bam Rivers. How are you doing?
Bless, Richard. How are you, man?
I am doing great. Jonthan, I do want to start with the beginning of your career. You played at Shaw under legendary coach Charles Flowers. From your playing days at Shaw, how did you get into broadcasting?
Well, it's funny, man. I actually took the non-traditional route. I didn't do what a lot of people in broadcasting probably did. After I graduated from Shaw, I went to Auburn, played ball for a little while till I had some back troubles, but ended up graduating from Auburn with a bachelor's in marketing. Then I went and got my MBA. And then I was coaching as well, high school football at my alma mater at Shaw High School. And the way I got into it was really just calling into a radio show. You know, there used to be a show called The Press Box on 95.7 ESPN Radio that actually my wife introduced me to. And a guy named Josh Pate, whom I know you know, and a lot of people out there know he's the host of The Late Kick with Josh Pate on YouTube right now with CBS Sports. He was being a guest host on the show, and he heard me calling as a caller a couple times, man. And he actually had a friend who was friends with my wife through Young Life, her outreach ministry. And we kind of connected, and we did some radio together at Columbus State for a little while. And he said, you know, he's going to be getting a show, which we ended up doing a television show called Football Nightly down south on the CW together for about 3 years. And that's kind of how I got into it, man. So I really went the non-traditional route. I've always loved sports. Like I said, I have a background in marketing. I'm a motivational speaker as well. So being on television was never an issue to me. So that's kind of how everything came to be at this point.
And obviously, you have a lot of talent. And Jonthan, I first heard you on 95.7 ESPN Radio in 2019 with Sports Unleashed with Bam and Reggie Reg. And not only were you an on-air talent, but you were also calling high school football games with Carlos Williams. So just tell my audience how you got the nickname Bam, what you were doing after, and what are some of the other things that you've been doing in the community, not just broadcasting.
Absolutely, man. Well, a lot of people think I got the nickname from football. You know, I was an all-state football player at Shaw before I went on to play at Auburn. But I actually got it from baseball. And I was about 12 years old, 13 years old. I had a coach named Coach Swan who coached me in the junior league here at Sally. And I was hitting line drives one day. And I hit like 7, 8 in a row. And every time I hit a line drive, he would just yell, Bam. And then he just said, Bam, Bam, that's your nickname. And I mean, it has stuck with me since that day. So I'm 42 years old right now. And 90% of the people that know me call me Bam. That's just been my nickname, and that's kind of what sticks with it. But the funny thing about that is it's really a blessing that I got that name because, you know, my motivational speaking and consulting business, Believe and Motivate, the acronym is BAM. So I kind of turned that into a business. You know, I also do a lot of youth mentoring and youth training. I have a camp called Camp Renaissance where I train athletes on not just to be better when it comes to their strength, their agility, their speed, just being a better athlete, but also growing their emotional intelligence and their mindset. Because Renaissance person is somebody who's well-versed in a lot of different areas. So I really want to teach these athletes how to be better athletes, but also how to be better young men in the community, in school, or wherever they operate. In addition to the motivational speaking, like you said, I've got a new show that we're going to talk about in a little bit. I'm also in the process of getting my own radio show. I'm going to be partnered with DJ Jones. He's actually starting a new network. I think it's 92.1. And he's reached out to me to have a radio show on that as well. So God has blessed me with a lot of great opportunities in the gifts that he's given me. And I'm just looking to take advantage of it, man, and just bless as many people as possible and continue to help take care of my family.
Well, Jonthan, I really appreciate you being on this show, which I've had for 4 years now. Funny story, there's when you left 95.7 in 2019, I actually tried out to be the co-host on 95.7 Sports Unleashed, but the pandemic happened, and they just did not pick a winner. And so that has motivated me. From that point on, I have been grinding, doing shows. I've been having this podcast for 4 years. I've had over 860 episodes, but I've also been doing games and doing shows with Thrift Behringer, DJ Jones's partner on 92.1 Smooth R&B and Sports Visions. I've been doing shows with Thrift Behringer for about a year now. So I actually do appreciate the talent that's in this area. But, Jonthan, I do want to go back to your playing days at Shaw. You said you're 42, so you played during that that years when they were dominant. Well, they won a state title in 2000, and did you also play with Damian the Nighthawk Daniels? And what are some of the other players that you played with under Coach Flowers? Were you part of that 2000 team?
You know, what's funny is I played football and baseball at Shaw. I was on varsity since my freshman year in both sports. And the year I graduated is the year they actually won a state championship in both sports.
Oh.
I graduated in 2000 in the spring, and they won it in the fall, and they came back and won the state championship. But I'll just tell you this. I was at both of those games. I was at the state championship game where they beat Statesboro, and I was at the state championship series when they beat Columbus High School. And having graduated, but being a part of this, just the aura and the ambiance and the environment of seeing the guys that I played with and helped mentor, and some of them helped mentor me as well, win a state championship. Even though I wasn't on the team, it felt just that good. I was very proud of them, very proud of Coach Flowers. People don't understand the work that he put in building that program from scratch, because you probably know this, like Shaw was trash before Coach Flowers got there. Let's just be honest. And he built a culture of stability. He built a culture of discipline. And to this day, you know, I do some work with Coach Flowers. I went out and spoke to a school district down in Macon about a month or two ago because Coach Flowers recommended me to come down there, and went down there and did a phenomenal job. So just shout out to Coach Flowers in his Second Chance Works program as well. So he's doing a lot of great things in the community. I just appreciate him for being one of my mentors growing up.
Yeah, Jonthan, I'm schooling myself up on Georgia high school football. In fact, I'm the proud owner of this book written by John Nelson that talks about high school football, not only in the early 2000s, where Shaw was the dominant program in Columbus. It was not Carver. It was Shaw, and then Carver started coming up, and we're talking 2007, Carver wins a state title with Jarvis Jones, who went on to play for Georgia. And then Isaiah Crowell came on the scenes in 2010. In fact, I'm going to be part of the Isaiah Crowell football camp later this weekend. When it comes to football in Columbus, you've been around it because you've been calling games with Carlos Williams on 95.7. What has impressed you the most in this past couple of decades with high school football here in Columbus?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the recruiting that's found its way to Columbus. You asked earlier about Damian. You know, Damian Daniels is a very good friend of mine. He actually played on that state championship team. He was a sophomore my last year, and he was one of the guys that we, quote unquote, handed the torch to when we graduated. So Damian's a great guy, did a great job. I also played with guys like Travis Anglin, who was a starting quarterback my freshman and sophomore years, who went on to play at Memphis. A lot of great talent. Keith Stevens went on to play at Georgia for a little while. So a lot of great talent that came through that school. And I think what I noticed now, you talked about Carver. I think Carver has been so good because a lot of times coaching is overlooked in this city. And I just be honest, I think there are a lot of times where coaching doesn't get to the level of where it should be in terms of how to develop in these athletes. But when Carver got a guy like Dale McGee, they did a phenomenal job. And Chris Lindsay, who was the principal at Carver, was my former linebacker coach and marketing teacher at Shaw. So I think Carver did a great job of taking that talent from Shaw and infusing it into Carver. So Coach Lindsay was able to build that culture at that school on the hill and do a lot of great things. So I think a lot of recruiting has helped. And, you know, when one college comes down and another college comes down, it benefits people of the future. So the Isaiah Crowells of the world and the Jarvis Jones, who's an excellent young man who went to Georgia, everybody knows, initially went to USC and then transferred to Georgia, was an All-American, All-SEC linebacker, got drafted in the first round to play for the Steelers, and he's now coaching collegiately, I believe. And he's just a great guy. I just think that talent around Columbus is showing people that there's talent in this city, whereas before we had talent, but I don't think it was as recognized as it is right now. So shout out to the individuals 10, 15 years ago who put in the work, and shout out to the young men and the coaches right now who are putting in the work to get these guys the opportunity to play ball at the next level.
Yeah, I moved to Columbus in 2015. I know that Carver had a special dual threat quarterback named Puma Pass, which I saw him after he took over for Lamar Jackson at Louisville. This was a special kid. I mean, what were your memories of Puma Pass and the type of player he was at Carver?
Well, I mean, just watching those games, and, you know, he had a brother that played defense and went to Louisville as well. Jerome was special. I mean, Puma was special. And I think the good thing that Carver did was they used him accordingly. They didn't just try to make him a pocket passer. They kind of got him outside of the pocket as well. And I don't remember if they actually won a state championship with Puma at quarterback, but I do remember they had a guy named Jamon Fortson who ended up going to Florida State, who was a beast. Who was
that's right.
Won a state championship. I just don't remember who the quarterback was. But Carver's, man, they've had a lot of talent. They've done some great things in this area. And I think what they've done has been good for the city as well, because I know a lot of people think that Carver's the only one that benefits. They're definitely benefiting, and it's definitely worth their while, and shout out to them. But they're also helping a lot of other schools, because when you play Carver and you have these D1 coaches coming to see them play. As a high school kid and as a coach, you have an opportunity to put your players in position to get noticed as well. So shout out to what they've been doing over the past decade, almost 2 decades in this area.
Bam, I want to talk about a missing void in this city, and I'm talking sports talk radio 5 days a week. I'm a huge fan of Sports Visions with Rip Behringer and DJ Jones, but it's only Mondays and Thursdays from 4 to 6. Back when the press box with Bobby Z and friends, and you talked about yourself being a caller, Josh Pate, Thrift Behringer, Jonathan Shushke, Buckets, Tyler Redmond, all of these guys were stars on this show, and I've had Bobby Z on my show, and he's really paved the way for a lot of talent, including yourself, in this area. When Bobby Z left the Columbus market, I mean, they tried the Sports Zone with Stephen Williams. Stephen Williams was the SID at Columbus State. But let's take it all the way back to 2019, because this is when I was living in Columbus for 4 years. I started noticing sports talk radio, and I started calling in, and this is where I got my niche. This is where I said, I think I might want to do this. You did a radio show. It was a call-in show. You and Reggie Reg did a show called Sports Unleashed. It was from, 4 to 7 and then 4 to 6? I mean, what was the format of the show, and what were some of the guests that you would typically have on the show?
Oh, man, first of all, it was a blast, man. Shout out to Davis Broadcasting, Michael Soul, Janice Granfield, everybody over there for giving me the opportunity to have my own radio show. And Reggie Reg was my producer, and she was very, very adamant about making the show the best that it could be. And Reggie was real big on using my talents. She was like, Bam, I'm your producer. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I know you don't necessarily need a co-host, and I'm here to help you as much as possible. So she would really make sure that my motivational speaking and sports were infused into that. But the show was great, man. Like you said, it aired Monday through Friday from 4 to 7. So we were on Drive Time Radio, and we also went and did, special occasions. Like we went and hosted the show during a Calvary High School state championship series, which was phenomenal. We also went out and talked to a lot of the players during baseball season that made the playoffs from like Columbus High, Jordan High back in the day. So it was a great thing, and we definitely did some things behind the scenes with a lot of the high school coaches. So on the show, man, the Sports Unleashed show, really, Richard, I talked about everything from NBA basketball to NCAA football, local high school sports, especially football, basketball, and baseball, collegiate, of course, football, NFL football. I mean, we ran the gamut and had a lot of great coaches. I want to think about some of the coaches that we had. I had all of the high school football coaches on. I actually had a guy named Titus Howard. He's actually a starting offensive lineman for the Houston Texans right now. He was a host on the show. I actually had, I wish his name would come to me right now. He was the DB coach of the New York Giants back in the day, was a host on the show, or a guest on the show. So had a lot of different guests, professional ball players, coaches as well that came through. And it was a blessing, man. It was fun to do. And as you know, I ended up moving on to do television after that. But people to this day still ask about Sports Unleashed, and they appreciated the show. They were tuned into it. And like you said, man, all that was possible because of Bobby Z and Pun. Bobby Z used to come in, and he and Pun, and they would just let me come in and host the show with Josh, because Josh was like, hey, I want this guy to host it with me. And I became a regular caller, so they got to know me, but they also let me come into the studio and kind of get my feet wet. Remember, I didn't go to school for broadcasting, right? So I was doing everything literally on the job training. When it came to the show I was doing with Josh on the radio at Columbus State, or the TV show we did, or being in the press box. So they really gave me an opportunity to build my platform and use my voice to become a host from becoming a caller. So, man, Bobby Z and Pun were great. I actually haven't spoken to them in a while. I pray that they're doing well, but I'm glad you brought them up because they were definitely integral in me getting on this journey of what I'm doing right now.
All right, Jonathan, before we get into your show, I do want to talk about you are a proud father of the starting running back at Northside, Kingston Rivers. We had the privilege of calling some of his games on Georgia Alabama Sports Live last year. In fact, you were in the stands cheering on for your son, a proud father. He had just a phenomenal season last year, sharing the backfield with Jay Jackson. Now he's a senior. Northside has got some experience. Caden Clay comes back as a senior. But what did Kingston learn from being under Malachi Hosley and also having a year under his belt where he's sharing the backfield with Jay Jackson? And what's the outlook looking like this year in his senior year?
Well, one, shout out to Malachi, man. For those that don't know, Malachi Hosley went on to play football, and he is in college right now, and he's in the Ivy Leagues. And Malachi was a beast in the backfield. I mean, he was what I like to call an eraser, Richard. It was 30-22 sometimes, and they'd run a stretch play to Malachi, and he'd get you 23 yards. I mean, he was just that good. So Malachi is not only a phenomenal athlete, he was a phenomenal student, but he was also a phenomenal mentor to Kingston, man. My son really looked up to Malachi, and Malachi took him under his wing, and that's one thing that's huge, as a senior, and really was a junior when Kingston's freshman year. He took him under his wing and just taught him a lot. But I think Kingston learned a lot last year. He was starting in the slot as a receiver last year, and then Ja wasn't able to play for a game or two, and they ended up moving Kingston, and they had him kind of switch between the slot and running back, and he ended up having a phenomenal season. He made all-region and 5A first team, did a great job, had the play of the year on WTVM for running over a kid from Westover. So he really –
when he trucked that game. Yeah, we had that on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. What a play.
I appreciate that. He actually was top 2 or 3 in the region in touchdowns as well. So, I mean, he had a great year. And coming off his sophomore year, he actually broke his ankle the summer before his sophomore year, right after track season during camp. So he was kind of hampered his sophomore year and did a great job as a freshman, starting freshman in JV and really lighting up the field. So I just think coming into this year, we've been going to camps. He's doing a lot of great things. He's got some colleges that are interested in him at D1 FCS level and D2 level, which he's really excited about. So he's going to be dynamic in the slot, I think, this year. And Caden Clay, shout out to Caden Clay and his dad, Shane. Caden actually has committed to Charleston Southern to play quarterback. So he's got a full ride there. We're very proud of him as our quarterback on Northside. His dad and I are good friends. We talk all the time about football and about the boys and about life and stuff like that. So very proud of him. But I think, like you said, man, Northside has a lot of weapons. I mean, they've got a lot of weapons, whether it's at receiver, whether it's at running back. You talked about Jai Jackson, he and his brother Jay, who starts at corner. They're phenomenal players. I mean, I actually coached against them, and Kingston played against them when we were at River City when Kingston was younger. And so that was a great opportunity, man. And there are just a lot of kids, just want to say this, that we were able to play with that are doing great things now. Kids like Jackson James that are at Brookstone, Colin and Carter Freiberg, who are also at Central, who have won, I think, a state baseball championship their freshman year, just won a state football championship, along with guys like Andrew Alford, who's the starting quarterback there who came from Brookstone. And his dad and I are real good friends. And Andrew is a top-notch guy, top-notch quarterback. So we've had a blessing to play a lot of these young kids, and we've seen them grow into potential Division I college football players. And it's fun to watch because not just as a father, but as a coach, you get to help train these boys up in the way that they should go, help try to teach them the game the right way. So it's really been a blessing, man, just to kind of see them grow and see us grow along with them.
Well, Northside plays Shaw at Kinnett Stadium on August the 16th, your alma mater facing Northside. I know you're going to be excited about Northside's upcoming season. They got a stacked schedule, Bam. They play Carver at Otis Spencer Stadium. I know a lot of people in the city want to see that matchup.
And, I'm actually glad that it's happening. I mean, I've been clamoring for it for years. I think that was the best thing about, high school football back when I played. As a Shaw graduate, we played Central and we played Carver. And those were the games you wanted to play, not because everybody was coming to the games, but because those were the best teams. And that's how you want to measure yourself. You want to measure yourself against the best competition. And I know that Kingston and the rest of his teammates are excited to play a team like Carver. This is a team that has been to a state championship recently. This is a team that has put out a multitude of talent in Division I, FBS talent that are playing in the college football playoffs, and guys that are going to Georgia and guys that are going to Kentucky and things of that nature. So it's huge. I think it's a great opportunity for the boys to not only get a win, but to show themselves, to show the work they've been putting in during the summertime when it comes to the weights, when it comes to 707, when it comes to just spring camp. So a great opportunity for both teams. Very excited for that game. Definitely can't wait to see it.
So, Jonthan, you got a new show that's going to be airing on Fox 40. Just tell my audience a little bit about the show. How did the show come about and where they can watch the show?
Absolutely. Well, the name of the show is Move the Chains. It does air on WXTX Fox 54 here in Columbus and in the Muskogee County area, as well as the
Oh, yeah, I meant to say Fox 54.
Oh, you're good. You're good, Richard. So it airs every Saturday morning at 9:30. And the reason that's important is because I wanted to do a show that didn't just air during football season. And the reason is because I have so much content that I want to discuss. There's a lot that goes on in the offseason, and the show is predicated on college football and NFL football. And the show also airs on YouTube. I've got a YouTube page. It's at move_the_chains. So people can go to subscribe to that, but you can watch it every Saturday morning at 9:30 on Fox 54. And the reason that I focus on the college football and NFL football is because while this show airs locally at this moment and airs on YouTube, the goal is to have a nationally syndicated and branded show within the next 12 to 14 months. We've been putting in the work. I've got a great team of producers that help out. Jackie Lynch at WXTX Fox 54, who's the general manager, who was my former boss when I actually worked for Fox 54. And this was something that a guy, Jeff Gilbert, who actually moved back home to Michigan, really had this insight for me years ago. You know, this show was supposed to be done around 2019, 2020, but we all know what happened. COVID hit. So they kind of threw a wrench into the plans. But Jeff, you know, brought me in and he saw me do some commercials for my motivational speaking. And then he found out what I knew about football. And he said, man, I want to give you your own show. He says, I don't want you to have to worry about paying for anything. I just want you to come and do the show because you're so good at what you do. You have a lot of insight and you do things a little differently. So I'm just glad that God has blessed me with the opportunity to have this show now. It's a lot of fun. I'm actually in the process of prepping for this week's show now, right? We'll go in and kind of get it done and making sure that we have everything in and out. So we're kind of talking about free agency at this point. Media Day is going to be coming up soon, and just been talking about the landscape of college football, how Georgia's going to look, how Ohio State's going to look, what's kind of changing for teams like Florida in the SEC. How are some of these teams going to handle conference realignment with Oregon and teams like UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten? You know, is Colorado going to be a team that can really compete for a college football playoff since it's expanded to a 12-team format now? And, of course, with the NFL talking about the draft, I've just discussed some gems that we have coming out in the NFL this year and kind of who I think is going to be leading the clubhouse in a lot of different areas. But it's a great opportunity, man. I love it. I love to talk sports, especially football. And it's something to where I don't have to have a game that's going on because I don't have to react. There's so many different opportunities, Richard, that I like to discuss that I don't feel like get talked about a lot. And I just want to bring that to the table, bring that to the screen, and allow fans to enjoy it 365 days out of the year in terms of 1 week every year.
Well, Jonthan, I'm going to say it like your former broadcast partner Josh Pate says, there is no off season when it comes to college football. And I think it's great that you have a platform where you can talk college football and talk about the NFL as well. And can't wait to check out your show. I know that college football, a lot of us to get excited. And really, Columbus is a very special area for college football because we have the fan bases for Georgia, Auburn, and Alabama. And really looking forward to catching your show. And I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and being a guest here on the Sports Beat.
Well, Richard, I appreciate you having me, man. It's a great opportunity here, and I continue to pray for blessings on your show. I know you said you've done hundreds of episodes, so, man, just keep going. I think you said 800 or something episodes.
Yeah, 860.
That's putting in the work, bro. So continue to do what you're doing. Good luck, and I can't wait to be a guest again, man.
Absolutely. That is Jonthan Bam River. You can catch his show, Move the Chains, on Fox 54 on Saturdays. Thank you so much, everybody, for catching another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Don't forget, you can catch an episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or you can like the Facebook page. I'm also on the X, and you can also follow me on Instagram. Have a great rest of your night.